Boys, we were wrong. The social construct postmodernism is the greatest gift to mankind. Shh, quiet. I have a story for you. You see, it turns out PMS is not real. You see, an expert claims that the condition is fabricated by Western culture and that women's anger usually has nothing to do with their hormones. It's exactly the truth. I will not argue with it. I will print this out and I'm going to keep it in my wallet with me. And if at any point, any woman either tries to claim that she's upset because of hormones or if she is upset, I will simply point out to them that PMS is in fact a social construct. And therefore, by default, I win any arguments. That will certainly play well. I can just imagine it now. All the women just saying, you know what, you're right, I didn't realize this. No, but in all seriousness, we actually do have this story, the Daily Mail, about a professor of women's health psychology, Jane Usher, claiming that PMS is in fact a social construct. There's a really big problem here, okay? PMS is a thing. It's, as far as I know, due to an imbalance in hormones. And yeah, it makes people, women, menstruating women or before, whatever, irritable or upset or just uncomfortable and frustrated and whatever. I'm not an expert on this, so I typically just defer to the females when they're, I'm like, hey man, let me know what you need. I'll go get you chocolate milk or something or hot cocoa, whatever makes you feel great. But I'll tell you what, the reason why this is so, in all seriousness, really, really bad for the left, this is like you're crossing the line, because I'll tell you what, you start telling women that the pain and frustration that they're feeling is a social construct, and you will see them flip off of this ideology. Could you imagine going to an angry woman who's going through, hormonal, imbalance or PMS, and you try wagging the finger at her saying that you do not respect her experience, she's wrong, and what she's going through is in fact a product of Western society? The fastest way to get slapped in the face, okay? You're supposed to respect people when they talk about their experience, but this is completely undermining the female experience. Actually, so listen, I'll be the first to say, man, I don't know what, I don't know much about this. And I'm going to tell you, all you gentlemen watching, neither do you. Some of you probably are doctors, and maybe you do. And some of you maybe got bored and read a ton of articles on the internet, so maybe you know a little bit about it. I think it's fair to say most guys don't understand what this is like, this experience. And that's why I believe true feminism would respect the female experience, saying, hey man, if you're uncomfortable, if you're feeling distress or whatever, I'll take your word for it, because I'm not you. I'm a dude, right? And so guys typically would respect that and try to accommodate females who are going through this. And that if you want true equality, we need to recognize the biological differences between men and women and accommodate women for these things. Let's read. It says, premenstrual syndrome is a myth, according to an expert who said that social conditioning in Western society makes women falsely attribute their emotions to their hormones. Speaking on the Clue Hormonal podcast, Jane Usher, a professor of women's health psychology at Western Sydney University, said that women from other cultures do not report many emotional signs of PMS. I got a reason. I can explain it. Is it possible that in Western cultures where women are free and equal to a great degree, they're allowed to express their discomfort, and in other cultures in the East, where women are told to be subservient and in some cases forced to not show their faces, they better keep their mouths shut about how they're feeling? Perhaps the reason you think it's a social construct is actually the inverse. If it's true that Western women experience PMS and Eastern women don't, is it possible that in the Eastern countries where women aren't allowed to speak up or hold positions or are not considered equal, they just keep their mouths shut because they know if they get angry or they express it, they'll get slapped or beaten or oppressed, literally? Maybe you have it backwards. Maybe it's the social construct holding women back. That's my bet. I think the West has done a pretty good job of expanding civil rights. I know this personally from my family's history, so I do take offense at you trying to claim that we're in the West making this up. No, if women are going to come to me and say, this is what I experienced, and we have science to back it up, I'm going to say, hey man, yeah, let me know what you need. I'll try and help you out. I'll do my best. If you need space, I'm going to go away, I'll go do that. If you want hot cocoa, you want, some chocolate candy, just let me know what you need, man. I'm here to accommodate. We're always trying to make everybody feel better. We're trying to do right by each other, right? Imagine what's going to happen when you walk up to your spouse, your girlfriend, or a family member, and you go, no, you're making it up. It's a social construct. You are not really feeling that way. Whew. You're going to get smacked in the face. And not really, I'm kidding, but let's read on. She said that a long-standing pathologizing discourse dating back to the 20th century is the reason many women believe they're having symptoms. Okay, I'm sorry. It just really feels like these people are trying to take civil rights away. I'm sorry. You just invalidate the experience of women, fine. According to Jane, all women experience emotional distress throughout their cycle. However, they will attribute it to their periods if they are premenstrual, rather than blaming things like their relationship or work life. And she added that those in caring relationships are less likely to report symptoms than those in more one-sided partnerships. What we know is that symptoms and illnesses are always culturally located, she explained. So if you go to different cultures, differing points in history, we have symptom complexes, which is what we see as legitimate illnesses and ways that we report distress. So you know what? I got to stop here. I admit, I am not a scientist. I am not a women's psychologist. And I could be wrong about all of my opinions. You know, maybe she's right. Maybe you just have women culturally being told that they have a pass. That if they act badly, they can just say, oh, don't worry, it's hormones. So maybe she's right. Maybe it's true that Western women are... So you look, man, I think we got a big problem here. Think about the alternatives. Think about our choices here. Either this woman is trying to tell women they're not really experiencing these things, prepare for a slap, or women are lying about experiencing these things. I'm gonna have to go with the one person is wrong on this one, but I admit I'm not a doctor, and far be it for me to tell the academic what is true or not, because it may be that women in the West just really are, I don't know, snooty, elitist, and they weaponize this, because not all women do, obviously, but maybe the ones that do are just making it up. That's what the doctor is saying. It's social construct. They're just pretending, I guess. Or they're falsely attributing. So imagine this. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Imagine if you were with a woman who was experiencing PMS and you said, no, listen, it's a social construct and you don't realize you're falsely attributing your feelings to, your menstruation. Yeah, you'd get smacked in the face for that one too. She explained that PMS first entered discourse in North America in 1931 when women were diagnosed with hysteria, which was associated to the reproductive system. Prior to that, there was no mention of the condition in medical history. Could it be because women weren't allowed to talk about these things? Like, seriously, dude. Is there a strange coincidence between the expansion of women's civil rights and them expressing discomfort? Like, you know what, man? In my opinion, my opinion goes so far as a dude who reads stuff on the internet. Fine. But if we can see some commonalities, like before women's civil rights, they never complained. And in countries where they don't have civil rights, they never complain. Perhaps the issue is they're not allowed to complain about it. So yeah, they're trying to take civil rights away. But again, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe the correlation and causation are inverted. Maybe women started complaining more and that granted them more civil rights. I don't know, man. You know what? I shouldn't even be in this fight. I should bow out because this is one of those things where no matter what you say, you're wrong and people are going to come after you. So I don't even know. But let's keep reading. These notions that women would have psychological disturbance were happening in the UK and US and really had little impact anywhere else in the world. You really see this legacy today. In the UK, US, and Australia, we have taken up this pathologizing discourse around the menstrual cycle. We expect women to be mad or bad or dangerous, and women take that up and feel irritable and feel angry, and then they blame it on their bodies. Oh, that's what it is. It's internalized misogyny. She said that women in other cultural contexts don't report emotional signs of PMS at that stage in their cycle, but begin to if they move to Western countries. Maybe it's because when you come to the Western countries, you all of a sudden have civil rights. Oh, why is this so difficult? What we also know is that when women come from cultures where there isn't a discourse around it, but move to the UK or the US, they begin to report symptoms again. Maybe it's because you're allowed to now. Maybe it's because, you know what? She's arguing against civil rights. Fine. You want to go to a country where women are told to cover up from head to toe and not to speak, where their religious texts say women should not be heard? Then you're never going to hear about it. Did you know that it wasn't until the early 90s we passed a law in this country that made it so that if you wanted to test a pharmaceutical drug, you needed to have a male and female version. Yeah, because for the longest time, we just assumed drugs would work equally on both sexes. Not true. And so it was in the 90s we finally said, hey, maybe women should, we should test it on them to make sure that the drugs function, beneficially. And it turns out painkillers, for instance, affect men and women differently. And that was the 90s. So yeah, here's the thing, man. I think we have a long way to go in terms of literal equality of opportunity. And I think it's being muddied up by these people who want equality of outcome. Something that doesn't make sense. And in this fight, they begin taking away the rights of women and quite literally advocate for some kind of social or cultural context in countries where there aren't civil rights. How does that make sense? Fine. If you want to argue that women are just pretending or falsely attributing their feelings to menstruation, fine. Then what ends up happening is women can't talk about it anymore. So if you're suffering, suffer in silence. Nobody wants to hear it. And we're not going to make any treatment to help you get through it because you shouldn't talk about it. Is that what you really want? Look, man, I'm all for, innocent until proven guilty. But like with Bill Cosby, with Matt Lauer, with Weinstein, when it comes to a point where you got like 50 women coming out being like, I'll start to, I'm going to be like, let's look into this. I get it. Sometimes groups of people lie. They get in on it. They think there's a path to success. Hey, if they're doing it, I can make money off this too. I get it. It's not always true. But what are you supposed to do? Okay? If all of these women are saying we experience this thing, and they're in a society where they're allowed to express their discomfort and challenge the system, stands to reason it's a thing. She says, it's a culture-bound system because it's a way of attributing anger, distress to their body. Women actually experience anger, depression, and distress across the whole cycle. What we know is that when they are premenstrual, they will attribute it to their bodies, but at other points in their cycle, they attribute it to other parts in their lives. Fine. You're literally saying women are lying, and they're just, when they're acting poorly, they just say, oh, it's because, this reason. Fine. Then you know what? Let me defer to the expert and just say women are pretending to be, PMSing so they can act poorly and you can't blame them. It's an excuse. Is that what you're saying? I don't know, man. I don't know. I know no matter what, the left is going to get angry at this video, though. I mean, the intersectional leftists, they're going to be like, how dare you? She revealed women often tell her about an argument with their partner or children when asked about PMS rather than their hormones or physical symptoms. Giving a classic example of an interview, Jane recalled, she said, I was standing at the kitchen sink. I was doing the dishes. I had the dinner on the stove. The kids were arguing. I was trying to get them to do homework. And I looked out into the garden and my husband was sat drinking a beer. She told me that was her PMS, and she was feeling really, really angry and yelled and felt really bad about herself. That's just typical PMS. I would say that's more about what's going on between her and her partner and less about her cycle. Jane explained that although women are less likely to self-silence when they feel they have PMS, those in supportive relationships report fewer signs of emotional stress. Now, that may be good evidence to her side. I can argue the cultural thing, right? That makes sense. But if you're a Western woman in a relationship where you have, a supportive relationship and you're not complaining, well, then perhaps. But also it could be that if you're feeling bad and you're getting angrier and someone says, I'm going to go buy you some chocolates, that might make you feel better. So maybe it really does exist. I don't know, man. You know what? Everything's a social construct. I have no idea what's going on anymore. I'm just going to flip my table over and say, you deal with it. She told, quote, it might be that in that phase of her cycle, she is less likely to self-silence and be cranky with him. But actually, what's useful to do is think maybe it's about asking for support and getting the partner on board. In fact, what we saw that in those relationships where women have that support, they're less likely to report signs of premenstrual stress. Well, there you have it. Whatever, man. If the scientist says it, it's true. So just keep this in your back pocket. And remember, if any woman ever complains, just pull this out, show her and say, liar, liar, you are lying. Or, wag your finger. No, you're incorrect. It's a social construct. If only you knew better. It's not your fault. You're just not that smart. I'm kidding. It's a joke. Calm down. Oh, people are going to come to my house and egg me. Whatever, fine. Hey, look, the story's real. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but she's a academic, so I'll take her word for it, I guess. I will see you all at 4 p.m. on the main channel, youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, I guess.